Sugarcane is earmarked as one of the 14 strategic cash crops. It is on the government radar to improve livelihoods and inclusive growth for households and foster agro-industrialization under the National Development Plan 2 program. Indeed, the government is looking at sugarcane to expand the much-needed revenue for its infrastructural development. Sugarcane is not only seen as an avenue for livelihood enhancement in terms of providing the necessary employment, its benefits would spread to entire communities through proxies received from factories set up in these rural communities.
Sugarcane is among the very important priority commodities that have been identified in the agenda for government to agro-industrialize. And the sugarcane is grown in areas that are being identified with some challenges in terms of poverty.
It has provided an opportunity for increased household incomes for some of our farmers, our community. And some of these sugar mills have also tried to contribute towards the development of the district, especially in the road sector. Even they have contributed to building some schools, and it has even also provided employment for some of our people, more especially the youth. Some of them are employed in the sugar factory, others are employed in the chambers. Somehow there is some kind of employment in the district.
Previously, our livelihood was really good, because at that time it is like we used to grow sugar canes, and we would harvest them by the age of around 14-15 months. We would be harvesting, so we would know that almost every year you are harvesting, and that would be income which is coming into the home annually.
And yes, Uganda has seen a jump in sugarcane production. This has come as a result of more land being tilled than improvement in production methods. And paradoxically, in areas where it is grown, sugarcane's sustainable growth is under threat. It is now being looked at as a source of household poverty as opposed to being a redeemer.
The development that, the inclusive growth and development that was expected by developers and the government are not forthcoming.
After encouraging us to grow sugar canes, we did respond to their call, but at the time when we are supposed to benefit, we are now only suffering.
The price has gone down because the miller decides what to give a farmer. Then the time for harvesting also takes so much time, like about 3.5 years. The cane is still in the field. People are now dying of poverty because they have started borrowing from institutions, from banks. You find yourself selling off your land, you find yourself running away, and people are dying of poverty.
So what is wrong? Sugarcane in Uganda is majorly grown in 4 regions: Busoga, Bunyoro, Uganda, and recently Acholi. Busoga has the biggest number of sugarcane mills and huge acreage of sugarcane, making use of its fertile soil around Lake Victoria and Lake Choga, coupled with good rains. Busoga contributes 35% of the sugarcane milling capacity of Uganda. It is followed by Central Uganda at 27%, Western at 25%, and Northern at 12%. However, the persistent poverty in Busoga continues to raise questions whether cane cultivation is benefiting farmers. Uganda Bureau of Statistics 2020 figures show that Busoga has 1.2 million poor persons, of whom 250,000 suffer household food insecurity.
Overall, it is second in terms of poverty, but also it contributes the biggest percentage of poor in the country. So there were questions then, why Busoga, for example? And then it started coming up that, yes, it could be that sugarcane is causing all that.
Economic Policy Research Center, in partnership with Innovation Lab for Food Security Policy, Research, Capacity and Influence, with support from United States Agency for International Development, is undertaking a study to assess the sugarcane sector in Uganda. The 3-year initiative seeks to understand the intricacies between the farmers, millers and their communities in general. The lessons will inform recommendations that will be used by the government, communities and millers to improve operations in the industry.
We are investigating the issue of sugarcane and then around governance structures, and also we are looking at issues that relate to how the industry should be put on a sustainable path.
It is already clear there has been increased sugarcane growing, largely driven by the licensing of small mills, especially in Busoga sub-region. These small mills did not have nucleus estates, and therefore they rely entirely on outgrower schemes.
I can give an example of Mayuge. Mayuge doesn't have land, doesn't have transport, doesn't have labor, but we are in partnership. But in our partnership, he has failed to recognize that we are in partnership. Indians think they are just helping us.
These factories are now crowded in almost the same area. You find that it is the same people who are growing sugar canes, and that has caused us some bit of misery. Our children are not getting all the meals that they are supposed to get.
Would the increased sugar growing and milling imply better incomes, reduce poverty and increase in food security for the communities?
We have grown more sugarcane. The Indians told us that grow more sugarcane, not knowing that they will not take the sugarcane. Even the factories right now cannot take the cane we have. Whether you give them free, you say my cane is here, please, when are you coming to take? They will not take.
The permit nightmare. So what are permits? A permit is a document that allows a farmer to harvest and supply the sugarcane to the miller.
Permit yaba permit okusooka oba mpagano nakoma oba mu mwaka gwene guno nabyesoniga. Paka enafunye obusungu ebikaddo bino nako baleka mbigave babisage mu oba batola ku ndokyemu mvwe ku byebikaddo male galimo bana ata mu maido basoya.
People are now starving everywhere, not only in Luka, but all the districts around Madivani are suffering.
Kuchinzirira kuba kati kiringa omuntu eyakuwa ekintu n'akizira kati gw'okitwalewa. Twebuuza bwebuuza kiki ekyatuuka ng'ate luli edda twali tutambula bulungi. Tetujja kitunda bweru nti oba batuwemu ze batuwa ate kiriko looni.
Ebisomba biwuka kubanga byakula ne bikala ne bifuukamu enku kati bino biraba ogenda olaba nti ebinna byakala kati era okitemako obutemi n'oteeka wano ne batwala nku.
Twakanina isatu eno omuntu bakuwa pamiti myezi 4 bikaddo biba bifuire nawo era twena omulimo tubali tukafuna kuba omuntu yatola emotoka oba 10 bajja omwakulu no pamiti atola omotoka 3 nebikaddo bena bikaze.
This is a failed deal. It's a failed deal. Let them get back to square one. In 1997, sugar canes were cut down and burnt by many farmers when there was a price fall and lack of market. The same thing can be done here, and farmers can now learn lessons to change business. And as they change business, they should put emphasis on food security. There is no household which prospers without food.
Lack of a clear path to sell their cane is leading the farmers into poverty. Many are disengaging.
Tukyengisa kuva mu bikajjo tudde mu mmere kwa kati erimu kati nawe taddewo ku bitooke wano kali kasiropu taddewo ku bitooke n'ebikajjo byennyini nzozo biraba bibyo byonna mbisugudde kati sekyaliyo muntu mupya asobola kusikirizibwa nti alima bikajjo.
The uprooting for other products, for other crops.
Omulanga gwefezera gwano kuire to the extent nti ebikaddo tuli kubifumbira bufumbire saawa eno tutandise n'okubigaba. Tuli kubitamu nti tujja twafuna mu sukali gulu twamutwala butwalaye ng'ate esente entono ino ediva mu ssebo.
Bw'ogenda okulambula ennimiro odda wakati weebaka era abamu pressure zitandise kubakuba lwaki kale ne tubanga ekizibu ekyo kyetusinze okusanga kati.
Yet some are burning it and using the cane as firewood.
Ndi ebifumbisa omugaso mwawasibu kuba saawa eno ekikado ekyemereire twasigalira kwokya kutamuziiko muno baba buti tudaga budage tutyo nze nina mwandu aye mbaye nina amasamba gano ag'ebikado aye buti mwawa muti musaada yandabulira ndikudaga bwoli kumbona bano ni baidukulu bange mujja muteme mulete bwe baleeta bwe tufumbira.
The cane is overgrown and drying. There are stockpiles and stockpiles of unharvested and unsold sugarcane. Individuals that rent out their land for sugarcane growing have not been spared the debt cycle, and many have ended up selling the land to the people who initially rented it.
I can't hide it out. Me, I hire a lot of land in Ruboka. But I found people who are willing to give it to me. And I hired the land 6 years. Me, after hiring the land, I come back to Ginger. I just go to harvest. So what does it mean? They should leave some land for their food crops. 2, if the land is small, why don't you use it yourself?
So this man who has the money comes and exploits him and says, I'm hiring your land. And for about 7 years, this poor man is just an onlooker on his. In fact, many times these people even become laborers, they become workers on their own what? Land.
There is also a development which is unwanted of speculators who are gaining access to the permits. These are perceived to be powerful politicians, high-ranking army and police officers, or their cronies. They don't buy sugarcane in metric tons, they buy fields.
Ba meja, bara PC, n'abafuzi bene kairi babingiriremu ebyebikado batumala ku ifeno obuwereso abalimi abawansi.
Abantu abatono abatalimye na bikado bali kuva mu State House, bali kuva mu Parliament, bali kuva mu different ministries. As they come to Kakira, they influence Madivani. Abo baga permitisi. Atege babaga permitisi. Babaga kukunga datane jintono. Babaga permitisi datani 15 and above. Ngaye ifeno ku ground etani 15 bisobola okwafalinga abantu 10.
Now that has implication. It means that what the farmer used to get before is now shared between the farmers and middlemen. But 2, you cut that feedback mechanism that pre-existed, that a mill is working directly with the farmer, they are providing support, they know their needs, and then they also work accordingly. But now with the middleman, you have a curtain between farmers and millers.
Some farmers have borrowed to finance cane growing. The vast majority of them, however, have received financing from the millers. If the mill cannot take the cane, the farmers are stuck. The loans continue to accrue interest. The mills cash in on that.
Kati emyezi gye bimaze looni yawe bagigenda bongeza paka tekenderako. Kuba weewala mitwalo 3 omala emyaka 3 kati oyinza okutuuka mu kakadde kamu plus.
Bandi bali bayimiriza looni eyo neyimirira paka ebakuwa pamiti nebo looni yabwe sigala ekyatambula kati bwe buzibu obwo kati gwe kiteza gwofuna interest ate nze gwowadde sifuna interest oba nyongera kusalawo kukyane badde nfuna kyoyongera okusalako paka okutuukira ddala nga sirina.
Millers like Kinyara have acquired new land and embarked on a cane-growing expansion campaign of the nucleus estate. They are harvesting their own cane and moving towards self-reliance. Already Kinyara is said to consume only 40% from the outgrower scheme. The rest comes from the nucleus estate. The outgrower system, which wasn't the lifeline of Kinyara sugar, has suffered and will soon be extinct, unless the miller expands its capacity or new mills are licensed in the area. The general feeling is that the outgrower farmers are expendable.
A number of farms have been opened up by the miller, which are now under crop. We have Chiriana Ranch. It used to be a government ranch where they would rear cattle, but it has now been taken over about 200 square kilometers. Then the miller has also moved out to hire land
from private individuals to grow his own cane.
The regulatory framework points out challenges that need to be addressed. The National Sugar Policy of 2010 puts out policies for a sustainable sugar industry, and consequently, a law, the Sugar Act 2020, lays out clear guidelines for sustainable development of the sugar industry.
Because if there is a Sugar Act, why is it not functional? That's the first word. I call upon the government to make the Sugar Act so that whatever is in the Sugar Act it becomes functional.
There are institutional challenges that would be sorted out by the governing body if it was in place, the sugar board. For example, like the issue of farmers are not accessing permits.
The miller must be told by government that this should be done, and that is the body to be. If the body is implemented, it will give orders. Each mill must have a cooperative, because the miller will know it, and if he is pretending, the body will direct.
We thought that once we organize ourselves in a kind of an association, then we shall have one voice. That will be our mouthpiece as far as our demands and the problems are concerned, challenges. The Farmers Association would be a bridge between the farmers and then the miller.
A sneak peek into the findings paints a disturbing picture of an industry struggling to stay on course.